I feel like I linger between the words to say the words to remember. Now we're here to take control over your body and over your soul. We're gonna take back everything and lose it all, lose it all, lose it all. Feel it in your arms, feel it in your legs, feel it on your fingertips and feel it in your head. Just let your body go, just let your body go, just let your body go and move to the rhythm. Now we will go back home today, until the very last hour. We still got few more days to slay, it's gonna get so much louder. Now we're here to take control over your body and over your soul. We're gonna take back everything and lose it all, lose it all, lose it all. Feel it in your arms, feel it in your legs, feel it on your fingertips and feel it in your head. Just let your body go, just let your body go, just let your body go and move to the rhythm. I wonder what went wrong today, Why do I feel like I linger between the words to say the words you remember.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, or good morning to some of you, and welcome to our second edition webinar on satellite communication Inreach Professional. My name is Juha Villanen and I'm hosting you today at this webinar. I can see many familiar names on the attendee list here. So many of you might remember that in September we hosted our first webinar on Inreach Professional, focusing on humanitarian aid. This was organized by our friends and partners of China Software from Czech Republic. Sorry. This time we will focus on search and rescue. Coincidentally, in October this year, so a few weeks ago, Garmin reached the milestone of supporting 10,000 SOS incidents with an Inreach satellite communication device. So 10,000 SOS incidents over years, of course, on 7 continents, 150 countries, more than that. As these incidents quite often were related to medical emergency or injury during hiking, mountaineering, backpacking, motorcycling or boating. In addition to these quite leisure time activities, there's a big number of professional organizations and companies exploiting this technology in their work. And to discuss especially this context, we have a solid lineup for you today again, with my colleague Greg Vulinovich, leading the Garmin Inreach Professional in the EMEA region, and then our special guest, of course, Vice President of Satellite Services, Yotam Bar-Eyal from Magnus International Search and Rescue. So we will have an interesting insight to satellite communication technology and search and rescue today. As the last time, for you who participated at the last edition as well, and the new ones, Greg will start with Garmin's world of satellite communication. Yotam will continue with his insight on rescue missions. And after that, there's a Q&A session. So you can use the button on the top of the screen, Q&A button, to get rid of your questions. We will then answer these at the end of this session, at the end of Yotam's presentation. So Greg first, and then Yotam, and then we have time to discuss and answer your questions. But now, welcome again. I'm really happy to see our lineup today. I'm really happy to see you all here. So let's focus on satellite technologies and search and rescue today. And I am more than happy to give the floor to my dear colleague, Greg Vulinovich. Take it away, Greg.
Thanks, Juha. Hello, everyone. Yes, Juha introduced me already. I won't go too much into who I am and what I do, but my name is Greg Vulinovich. I look after Garmin Inreach Professional Sales through the EMEA region. I'm based in the UK office, but I support all the Garmin offices and distribution network in the region to sort of help facilitate professional B2B sales. So it's quite a varied and interesting role because Inreach is used in so many different forms and applications as well. So from my point, I'm going to just give you a really quick background into the Inreach technology, and a sort of bit more, then go into a bit more of a sort of deeper dive into how search and rescue use Inreach and why they use Inreach, and and the benefits that they get from using Inreach in terms of their day-to-day operations and obviously their rescue missions as well. So so obviously if you've got any questions for from these sort of topics, use the Q&A function and we will answer as many questions as we can at the end. So first of all, it's just in terms of the sort of background on how Inreach works. So in order for Inreach to actually be able to send a message, you need to have an active subscription. So that's why Inreach uses the Iridium network. So a customer, when they have their Inreach device, they need to activate it using one of our plans. And one of our plans, all our plans use the Iridium network as well. So once your device is activated, you're then in a position to be able to send a message either directly from the Inreach device or using your paired smartphone through the Inreach app as well. So there's two ways of doing it. So what happens is, so you send a message, the Inreach device will then find the nearest Iridium satellite that's orbiting the Earth, and typically because there's 66 satellite orbiting, it doesn't take long to find a satellite, and typically within 1 minute we'll find that satellite and begins transmitting that message. So once it's found that satellite, it then cross-links to 4 other satellites, and the reason it does that is to make sure that that signal finds the optimized route, and it that message gets processed in the fastest possible way. So it may be that there's a problem with a ground station or something nearby. So by using cross-linking with other satellites, then you're not limited to ground stations in that certain location if there's an issue there or something. So it will always find that signal will always find its way to the recipient, and the great thing about the Iridium network, it will find the fastest and optimized journey of getting there as well. So then once it reaches the gateway will then process that message. So depending what type of message it is, so if it's to go into a mobile phone as like a text message, then the mobile phone carrier will process that message and relay that onto the mobile phone recipient. If it's an email, then the internet service provider will process that message, and then if it's Inreach device to do Inreach device, then obviously that gets processed by the Iridium gateway and through the Garmin servers. So that's kind of in a nutshell how, when you send a message, that's what happens in a very sort of quick fashion. Typically these messages are being received within, on average, within less than 2 minutes as well. So from an Inreach point of view, as a sort of general, when we talk to our customers and why they use Inreach and what they find most useful with their Inreach devices, there's kind of really 4 pillars to it. I'll call them pillars. The most useful operations of their Inreach and the whole Inreach ecosystem, which provides all that sort of value add to the customers. So we've got 100% global coverage. We've got continuous tracking, we have two-way messaging, and we've got our very own Garmin response center as well. I'm going to sort of just go into these very briefly as well to give you a little bit more background information on that. So we talk about 100% satellite coverage. So that is 100% global satellite coverage through our Iridium network that we use. So as I said, Iridium has 66 satellites orbiting the Earth. They're low orbiting as well, so they're only on sort of approximately 400 and I think it's 485 miles above the Earth, which is, in comparison to other alternatives, like for example geostationary satellites, the Iridium satellites are very close. Geostationary satellites, for example, are around about 22,000 miles from Earth as well. So there's a big difference. And what that actually means from an Iridium point of view is that those signals are stronger and they're faster connections as well. And then when it comes to the hardware, like Inreach, that means we can use smaller antennas. We have lower power consumption as well. So a lot of people love Inreach because of the battery and how compact the devices are. You can sort of put them on your arm, on your backpack, in your jacket pocket. They're very compact devices as well. So, and the way we maximize the design, make them as compact as we can, while making it efficient with the Iridium network as well. we wouldn't be able to make our products as compact as they are if we were using a different network, because we would need bigger antennas, more power to make those connections as well. In terms of the coverage as well, we've got coverage in the polar regions. We got, in the remote high latitude regions where a lot of the alternatives don't have that coverage as well. So it is truly global coverage with Iridium and Inreach as well. So, that's a big plus point when you're using Inreach. No matter where you are in the world, you're going to be able to send a message and receive a message. So two-way messaging, Inreach is, I guess, famed for its two-way messaging, because though two-way messaging isn't unique to Inreach, there are other alternatives where some devices do it, some don't. Whereas with Inreach, all Inreach devices have two-way messaging. So not only can you send a message, you can actually receive a message back. So obviously the biggest advantage of that is that you're not just sending a message and at that point you don't know if it's been received, whether you're going to get a reply. You're going to get a response as well. So obviously that's a big plus point. And obviously when it comes to rescue missions and to people that in SOS sort of situations, then the two-way messaging is really, really important as well. So. And then we'll talk about continuous tracking. So whether the device is, if you're moving with the device or you're stationary, the device is going to report its location. It doesn't stop tracking as well. So, and you can sort of you can change how often the device is reporting its position as well, and you can sort of do that on the device, but you can also do it remotely as well. So if you want to increase the tracking, how often you're seeing the device reporting its location, you can do that as well. But also kind of the obvious sort of use case, if someone who has an Inreach is stationary because they're injured, or because they've had an accident or whatever, you can the device will still report its position. You can actually on some of our plans, you can actually increase that interval as well. So that the device is reporting its location a lot more frequently, even though the device isn't moving. So you can see that there is obviously a problem. So mention Garmin Response. So Garmin Response is our very own emergency sort of control center. So it's manned 24/7 every day of the year. This is Garmin's in-house center. So a couple of years ago, Garmin acquired GEOS, a company called GEOS, who we used up to that point, and we acquired them. So it's now very much part of the Garmin family, and it's sort of entrenched into the Inreach ecosystem as well. So they support well over 200 languages. Who you are, where you're calling from, or have a problem, they're going to be able to support that instant as well. They have a database of responders for over 160 countries. They've got a whole database of different responders that they reach out to, depending on the nature of the SOS as well. So, and they will coordinate the response to the most applicable emergency service. And the great thing is, and I've got an example of that. So when a user triggers a SOS, they send automatically, you press the button and it sends a message to the Garmin response team. They will, once they receive it, they will acknowledge that they received it. So this is going back to that two-way messaging aspect as well, that that your SOS has been reached and been acknowledged by the Garmin response team as well. So there's no like, oh, I don't know if it's been received or not. It's been received once you get that message back. And then from there, it's a case of like, you can, if the user is able to, they can provide more information about the what the problem is, where they are, all sorts of information that's going to help Garmin response team coordinate that response as well. So when they're coordinating with the response to all the responders, they're also keeping not only the user updated with who they're sending, approximately time of arrival, but they're also keeping emergency contacts on the account informed, the account administrator as well, so they're kept informed of the whole process as well. And and that will remain the case until the SOS has been completed and the responders are taken over and are now dealing with that situation. So it's a very sort of thorough journey with the gun response team. They they look after it from start to finish, so, and they keep you updated as you go through as well. So there's no point you're left wondering, are you going to get help? When is it going to when it's going to happen? Who is it that's coming? So you're going to continuously be kept informed. So obviously the sort of topic today is around search and rescue, and there are certain aspects of Inreach that which makes it really valuable to sort of the day-to-day operations for search and rescue teams. Obviously they're in sort of volatile, sort of high risk environment situations where they're out to help people and find people and rescue them as well. So not only are people you call maybe recreational people like hikers and stuff using Inreach, but as professional people as well, and search and rescue teams actually use Inreach themselves to actually help coordinate rescue missions as well. You think about the locations where they're going to be. Typically someone needs help, it's going to be in high risk remote locations, so again that cell phone infrastructure is likely not to be there, or it's going to be unreliable. So again, the reliability of Inreach, no matter where you are in the world, really comes to its forth as well with the search and rescue teams as well. So just going to go through a few of the sort of features that they particularly use with Inreach and the Inreach ecosystem as well. So first of all, it's as a team of search and rescue, you can actually locate your responders at any point. So the account administrator can log in to the website at any point. They can request a location update. If the device is also tracking, so it's turned on as tracking, then the website automatically updates with locations. If the device is just turned on, then the account administrator can sort of request a location at any given point as well. So again, as a sort of maybe a team leader or back at base camp or headquarters, as an administrator, you can log in and you can help coordinate these missions and help coordinate your team's response as well by seeing where they are and as well. So it's a really useful feature for these guys as well. Then with it, as an account administrator through the website, you can send messages as well, and also you receive the messages back. So as an administrator, if you've got something that you need to send to an individual or a team of responders, then you can do, and they can then, when they reply to the message, then those messages will also come through to the website as well. Again, it's just helping that coordinated effort as well, and make sure not only are they safe and they're where they need to be, but it's just keep an update with conditions as well, and they can sort of say, let you know what the weather's doing as well, so you can sort of like, if they need to take shelter or find a different route, then the administrator can help with that. They can see where they are on a map, and they can look for look at the area and sort of find solutions and alternatives as well. I mean, this is a really key one for me, is the ability so again, thinking about these locations and the fact that you're not likely to have cell phone coverage or internet, so being able to sort of send and communicate via traditional means of text message or phone calls, it may not be possible, but the fact that these guys have got Inreachers in their teams, they can actually send messages from Inreach to Inreach device, and it's not reliant on having cell phone signal at all. It's purely based on that Iridium network, which has got 100% global coverage. They can send messages to each other, they can keep and gain. It just helps that coordinated effort for the guys that are on out in the field as well, so they can keep tabs on each other and and like I say, sort of coordinate those rescue attempts as well. So I kind of briefly mentioned before, but as an administrator, sometimes it's important to be able to change what the device is doing remotely. So it might be that you, as an administrator, you want to be able to track the user or the device more often. So it might be reporting every 10 minutes or 15 minutes, but because of the nature of the incident or the conditions or whatever, you can increase that or decrease it if you want to. But if you want to increase it, you can log in and you can sort of change that tracking interval. So you can, with some of our plans, you can track up to every 30 seconds as well. So it's giving you sort of very frequent updates to the location of those users as well. So again, you can also turn on, if a device is switched on but it's not actually tracking, you can actually turn the tracking on as well. So that will then mean that the device is automatically reporting its position at whatever setting you set on the device as well, or you can do it obviously through the website as well. With obviously a team of responders are going to have multiple units, and I think in a lot of cases those devices don't belong to one particular person. They're shared amongst the team, depending on who's on duty and who's going out to those rescue missions as well. So again, it's quite important that the devices are set up in a way that no matter who's using it, it's not personalized to that person, it's personalized to the team. So you can set up the messages, so preset text messages. So if you want, as an administrator or a team leader, you want them to be able to send a certain list of text messages, you can set them up so all devices on that account set up in the same way. You can also set up the devices in terms of how often they're tracking, etc. So you can have that sort of uniformed approach as well. So and the emergency contacts and stuff, you can then keep it generic to the team rather than necessarily personal emergency contacts to a particular user. So you can keep it based on the organisation rather than individual people using it as well. And then finally on this is the it's really the hardware. I mean, for these types of missions and the locations and terrain that where these rescue missions are taking place, it's really important that they can trust the device. And I think Inreach is certainly trustworthy because of a number of different factors. So our Inreach devices are built to military standards. So that means they're tested for thermal, shock, water and vibration as well. So you're getting a sort of durable, rugged device as well, which is going to withstand those types of conditions and elements that it's being used in. Battery life is really important. We talk about, again, extreme cold temperatures can impact battery life as well. So where Inreach devices have up to 28 days battery, that really really long battery life as well, which is important again, because you don't know necessarily how long rescue missions are going to take, and whether you're in the next facility to be able to charge the device as well. So it's really important that that if you take out, switch on, it's going to have a decent amount of battery life as well. It's also really important when you're using the device to be able to see what you're looking at as well. Again, if you've got bright sunlight or really overcast conditions, you still want to be able to see on the device what's happening, when you're trying to function the device as well. So again, same with Garmin wearables as well. We design our displays so that they can be used in any condition as well. And again, we talk about weather, whether it's rain, snow, also, and it's sort of stormy weather. These products are fully waterproof. You can actually use them. It's not like when you've got your mobile phone, you're trying to cover it, or you've got an aqua pack and you're worried about the water getting inside it. These devices are designed to be used in all these adverse conditions, and you can use it as you're walking along, traveling along as well. You don't have to sort of quickly put it back in your pocket in case too much water gets on it. These are designed for that usage. So in terms of the sort of different solutions we offer lots of different professional solutions. How people use the products, and the type of subscriptions that they need does vary, and how they want to use the SOS, etc., does change by organisation. So we can customise the SOS response. So this is a really good good topic to talk about, because search and rescue teams do use Inreach products, but they are the rescue team. So typically, if it was a hiker and they got in trouble, they would press the button and will go to Garmin. Garmin will then reach out to one of these search and rescue teams. But if it's the actual search and rescue team themselves that's pressing the button because they got into trouble, what the Garmin response team can then do is we can set it up so they coordinate the response with that search and rescue team. So if that search and rescue team is able to coordinate the response, then Garmin will hand it over to them. If not, for whatever reason, it needs to go to a different team, maybe because of lack of resources, then Garmin can sort of reach out to an alternative as well. So it's a good solution for those professional teams, because they typically would want to handle their own SOSs, but there might be situations where they can't, and knowing that Garmin response team can coordinate that is really reassuring to those teams as well. Payment options, we offer various different methods. I think for organisations typically like search and rescues, where they might be charity based and that, or they get a pot of money at the start of their financial year, they rather prepay for the subscriptions in advance, and we can do all that as well. So they might want to pay 12 months in advance rather than pay monthly, which is the sort of typical way of doing it. So there are different ways we can bill customers and how they can actually pay that bill as well. So organisations tend to want to pay by invoice and send the money through bank transfers, so we can do all that as well. So we can sort of tailor the method to what that organisation needs. In terms of the onboarding, we can definitely support with customers setting the devices up, getting them activated, setting them up with how they want to use the products. And then there's that ongoing support as well. We have a dedicated team of professional support guys who can help with any technical queries, but also on the sort of administration side, we have a professional billing team as well, can help with any inquiries about sort of the billing side of it as well. So it's really important to Garmin that we offer that sort of white glove service to our professional customers, and that's why we have a dedicated teams to provide that as well. So sort of briefly mentioned about different airtime or subscription. So in order to use the Inreach, you need to activate it, and there are different plans, different types of plans that we have. We have more simplified ones, and we have more plans that are more geared up to people that want to track more often, etc., or send more messages as well. So we offer lots of different plans again, and we can sort of tailor that around to the use case as well. So lots of options on that side of it as well. I sort of said at the start, my job is to support all the Garmin offices and work with the Garmin distributors. We have offices and distributors pretty much in every country in the world, certainly in the EMEA region as well. So from a sales point of view, there will be a Garmin office or representative in most countries where you can buy the hardware from. They can supply the hardware, and then through the professional team, we can support the onboarding side of it as well. So it's a really good network that we have in terms of that sort of supply chain, really. So obviously mentioned about sort of professional supports and that sort of dedicated support service that really links to the onboarding. We provide that at the start of the journey, and we carry on that through the customer's journey as well. It doesn't ever stop. And then so we've got lots of different Inreach devices depending on how it's going to be used. We've got at least sort of 6 different Inreach devices, all very different in terms of their design, in terms of their like sort of physicalities, but in terms of their functionality from an Inreach point of view, they do exactly the same thing. There's no difference to them. Just some have maps, some have more navigation features, some have bigger screens, some have color screens, some have monochrome screens. It's all we do a lot of different solutions, and it really depends on that sort of use case at the end of the day, but there's plenty of choice there. And then finally from me, obviously we talked a lot about users need to activate the Inreach device to start using them, and then they choose a subscription plan that's best suited for their users. So on our website, we've got 3 simple plans that we offer on the website, so basic, advanced and unlimited, and depending on whether it's just for emergency use, whether as you want to do regular tracking, or you want to send a lot of messages, those plans will cater for that. If you want to track a bit more regularly, say up to 30 seconds, then we offer, or you want to send you want to sort of do a bit more sort of tracking, then we offer bite plans as well. So again, we've got 6 different bite plans as well that again caters for different use cases. So, and Garmin, and we can support you through that, and we'll work with you to understand how you're going to use the devices, and we can then work out with you what plan's going to be best suited for you. The other great thing that we offer for all our professional customers is the ability to use our API as well. So what that actually means is that through our API, we have a lot of Inreach partners out there. Magnus, who's going to present today, they're one of them, and they use our API. And effectively, what that means is that they are receiving all the information that the Inreach device receives and transmits. That API is taking all that information into their system or platform, and they're then using that information along with all the additional functionality and feature set that their very own solution offers as well. So in some cases there may be certain features or requirements that you need when you're logging into a website, and you'll see with Magnus they offer lots of different functionality as well. So you can do quite a lot on the Garmin website, but there are with our partners, they have other functionalities as well that might be applicable to you as well. So if the Garmin website doesn't do it, that doesn't mean you can't use Inreach. There are lots of different partners out there who use our API and offer very technical features and value adds through their own platforms as well, and you'll get a sense of that through Jotun's presentation as well. So that's my cue to hand over to Jotun. Thank you very much. Obviously, if you've got any questions, and I'll do my best to answer them at the end of Jotun's presentation, but I'll hand over now. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for a very comprehensive presentation of many elements of what Inreach can be. So from the devices and satellite subscriptions and Explore portal and third-party integration. So for me personally, it's always exciting to think about the Inreach as such as an enabler. In September, we discussed then how does Inreach enable humanitarian aid in crisis regions and so forth. And today we're gonna I'm thrilled to listen what Jotunheim has to say, but at certain places, Garmin Inreach is enabling search and rescue. And it's really exciting to hear what the company that actually is running the rescue operations, rescue missions, actually getting people out of these regions injured or other emergencies with help of this technology. So that's the exciting part. Sorry, Greg, but the thrilling part is to see actually how Magnus, as a globally operating search and rescue organization, is using all this to run the operations globally. Magnus has been an Inreach partner for years now. So I'm really happy that Yotam, Vice President for Satellite Services at the company, had time for us today. So go ahead, Yotam.
Okay, so hello everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. My name is Yotam Barel, and I'm VP Satellite Services in Magnus Search and Rescue. First of all, I want to say thank you to Garmin and to Juha for giving me this opportunity to be speaking here today. I joined Magnus almost 5 years ago, first of all as a search and rescue operator before I got to this secured position. Magnus is actually an Israeli-based search and rescue company that was founded over 30 years ago. In Israel, it is a known fact that after the military service, most young people go to travel around the world for about 6 to 12 months. The company was founded by Hilik Magnus, the founder. We call him in Israel the man in the beard. He was actually the founding father of the concept of searching and rescuing for Israeli travelers around the world. The company has sent rescue teams to areas of natural disaster, including the earthquake in Nepal in 2015 and the tsunami back in 2004 in the Far East, and to very high altitude as well, including a rescue mission from the Alpamayo mountain that rises to around 6,000 meters. Today, we operate over 1,000 search and rescue missions each year. The company has 5 main departments that all together work with our control center that is based mostly, not mostly, but based a lot on the Inreach devices. Our first department is the mental department. Our team has developed special protocols to work with people during a psychotic episode and to get them to cooperate and come back home willingly. Our second department is the satellite department. It's my department, actually. What we do is we rent Garmin Inreach devices to clients, which are travelers, groups, travel guides, and also to companies. And that allows them to communicate, like Greg said, from anywhere around the globe. If it's regularly, to say everything is okay, or if it's in emergencies, to press the SOS button. Our third department is the Special Operations Department. They take care of different and special operations, special situations, like rescuing people from the war zone in Ukraine during the war that started this year. They also provide services to governments and to organizations. Our fourth department is the Magnus Safety for Business and Organizations. We actually provide memberships to companies that grants them the access to our operations desk and to our systems, and that allows them to manage, monitor, and communicate with their employees anywhere around the globe. We also supply them with contingency plans, intelligence reports, and location-based alerts that allow them to mitigate their risks. And our fifth and main department is our search and rescue department. We are actually the search and rescue providers for most Israeli insurance companies, which means that over 80% of Israelis traveling abroad are under our control center in case of an emergency. I will now explain the what we call the SOS journey. First of all, our control center is operational 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year. We hire very specific people to that control center, and they undergo a long training process before they can start managing the search and rescue missions. The way we work is that we receive an emergency call in our control center, if it's via Inreach device, via app, or via phone call. We analyze the situation and we operate according to the situation at hand while maintaining contact with the traveler himself, herself, their insurance company, rescue personnel, and the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Also, while doing all that, we maintain contact with the traveler's family and provide them with mental help and support during the search and rescue mission. So as I said before, we have over 1,000 search and rescue missions each year. So how do these operations actually happen? We have 4 different layers of safety that help us to operate. Our first layer is our headquarters. We have around 40 employees that are in our headquarters all the time, and that also includes our control center that is manned 24/7. The second layer is our on-call teams. They are built out of specialists that are all from the IDF Special Forces and the Israeli intelligence community. This ring consists of around 80 people that are doctors, ground search and rescue specialists, drone specialists, river specialists, and also we have people that speak a lot of languages so we can work with people from around the world. Our third ring is our volunteers. We have a special program that we train people with the right background before they go on their trip around the world so they could assist us during search and rescue missions if they are already located close to that incident. And our fourth and last ring is our global network. We have a broad global network that consists of over 1,000 people around the whole world that we work with. These people are search and rescue teams, helicopter companies, travel guides, and even generals and government officials. These people are the ones that operate on real time during search and rescue missions. Now I want to show you a few examples. My first example is a mission that we had in Tajikistan in the Pamir Mountains. We had a group of 4 hikers that went for a lake trek from a town called Bahul, a hike that was supposed to take 3 days. The whole hike is at high altitude of around 4,000 meters, while the highest peak reaches to 4,600 meters. The group rented an Inreach device from us ahead of time before they left for their trip. On the second day of their trip, they pressed the SOS button on their device because one of the hikers suffered from altitude sickness. After we received the call at our control center, we analyzed the situation and we understood immediately that we have to have a doctor communicate with the hiker so we could get better understanding of his medical condition. While the doctor spoke to the hiker via a satellite device, via the Inreach device that he had, we understood that there is a need of an immediate rescue and it would probably be needed to be by helicopter. However, the terrain and the location of the hiker were very problematic and no helicopter could land near him. After we analyzed the terrain, we saw that the closest place a helicopter could land is 20 kilometers away from the hiker and also includes crossing a lake. Also, we saw that no matter where we tell this hiker to go, he's going to go higher than his current location, which puts him in danger even more. What we did is we established a local ground team that was sent to assist the hiker. The team got to the hiker after 2 days because of how far the trek was from any civilization. After they reached him, they started by giving him medical treatment, which included oxygen and first aid that they had with them and a paramedic that they had with them. And they began heading towards the lake on horses to make sure that the traveler is not going to be in any effort at all. On the lake shore, a boat already waited for them and took them towards the location where the helicopter landed. From there, he was taken with the helicopter, of course, to a local hospital for further treatment. This is where our SOS journey ends. The next example I'm going to give happened this last month in October. As part of my job, I flew to Nepal to meet with our local assets. And during my stay, a storm hit the country and a lot of travelers were stuck on treks due to that storm. Also, our control center saw that the storm was coming and sent alerts to travelers in Nepal, warning them of the storm. Sadly, some of the travelers did not have enough time to reach back to Kathmandu and Pokhara and were still stuck on the trails. One example is a village named Manang in the Annapurna circuit, where almost 200 Israeli travelers were stuck with no ways of communications except a few lone travelers that had rented Inreach devices and one of our volunteers that also had an Inreach device and was by accident in that village. We got all the information from our volunteer and we understood that I need to go there to better understand the situation. So I flew together with one of our local contacts to that village so I could better understand the situation, estimate the severity, report back to our control center, and evacuate anyone in need. After 4 days in the village, we rescued all the Israelis from Manan. During that whole month, during all October, we had rescued over 300 travelers in all of Nepal. So again, thank you very much for listening, and thank you for Garmin for giving me this opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Yotam, and thank you, Greg. As said, it's really fascinating to see how technology can help an operation like this. But obviously, technology is not enough for what you do. So in faraway places, you have to run a very large organization and you have to, and this has to work really well. Yeah, and then we, as promised, we have some questions here. So let's go through some of them here for both of you. The first one, I think this is for Greg. Batteries, are those inbuilt, or can you additionally use regular batteries from gas stations, etc.? Greg.
So the Inreach devices use rechargeable lithium-ion batteries. They're inbuilt, other than the Montana device where you can actually buy additional accessory batteries for it. So if you want to carry additional batteries around with it, but I mean it just goes back to the point, you know, having up to 28 days battery on Inreach is really important because they don't use exchangeable batteries. It's important to have really strong battery life as well. So yeah. Okay.
Thank you. And I think the next one is for Yotam. I think this relates most likely to the integration with Garmin. So how does your cooperation with Garmin work? So you I think this has to do with your guys, or the traveler has a Garmin device, but you rescue them. But maybe you can elaborate a little bit more how that cooperation works in reality.
So like Greg said at the end of his part, that we have an API for the Garmin devices. So all the messages that hikers send from the Inreach devices that they rent from us, we see all their messages. And if a hiker presses the SOS button, it gets to our control center. We get it also. Garmin receives it and makes sure that we do everything correctly. And we are the one that actually make the rescue. Also, like he said, when we send teams, all our teams always go with Inreach devices as well to make sure that no matter where they are going, they're going to have the option to communicate with us.
Okay, so both you and Garmin get the SOS message in that case?
Yes.
Okay. All right, then there's a question from Cynthia. Can we use it, most likely Inreach device, on an aircraft? And I actually, at least I saw some helicopters here, but I think this is for both. Greg, can you start?
Yeah, absolutely. We have lots of different pilots, particularly like backcountry pilots as well. They use Inreach technology as well. So we have the Garmin Pilot app as well, which you can sort of use in conjunction with the Inreach to send messages as well. So yes, definitely there's a blog page. I don't know if I can share links on here, but there's a really interesting blog page about using Inreach with and aviation on our website as well. So you have a read of that.
Okay. And then here it was mentioned, but I don't know if this is the correct one. This is for Yotam. How many people do you work with around the world? It might refer to your employees or your network, or you mentioned that you have 1,000 rescue missions a year, but I guess it means then how many people you work with globally then to do this all.
Our global network is over 1,000 people. That's the only way I think that you could actually maintain so many rescues during a year.
Okay. Next one. I guess this relates to what you said right now, but I think this is for Greg. Where are the physical locations of the Garmin response centers? I think this relates to both. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Jotam and Greg, you can refer to what happens and where does this SOS go. Then maybe this relates to this one.
Yeah. So the Garmin response center is based in just outside Houston in the US. So I mentioned earlier we acquired a company called Geos back in 2020. We effectively take over the same premises. It's an underground. It's quite interesting because it's an underground sort of building in an old sort of bunker. So it's very highly secure. It's obviously 24/7, 365 days a year, highly trained operatives who can support in over 210 different languages and dialects as well. So yeah.
Maybe Jotam, that you mentioned that you have an own operation room or rescue center. Was it in Tel Aviv, or was it spread all over the world then, or is it one location?
Our main control center is in Tel Aviv. We do have a few, we call them sub-control centers, but all the calls come to Tel Aviv and are managed right now from Tel Aviv.
Okay. Yeah, furthermore, maybe, okay. In the Magnus case, which control center has priority? Magnus Control Center or the IRCC. So in terms of Garmin getting it and Magnus getting it, so which one takes responsibility for your customer?
As part of our cooperation, we do have an agreement that we have the priority and we take responsibility for SOS calls that reach our control center and that come from our clients.
Okay. I think maybe this is for both again. Eugene from Garmin Seychelles, who covers the cost of rescue, personnel and helicopters, etc. So maybe Jotam, you start with this one.
Well, like I said before, we are suppliers, mostly suppliers for insurance companies. In that case, they cover the costs. When we work privately, then we do bill charge actually the client, if it's the family of the hiker or someone else that called us.
Okay.
From a sort of Garmin point of view, so if a hiker's needs rescuing, there's a helicopter involved, it really depends on whereabouts. So some countries have maybe state-based responders, and others where it'd be private. So it really depends on whereabouts it is. So you know, it's always a good idea to have the right insurance cover that. We also, interestingly, Garmin now also offer their own search and rescue insurance as well. So for consumers and professionals as well. So if you've got organisation, or we provide SAR insurance as well. So it doesn't cover individuals; it covers a set amount of people within that organisation as well. So yeah, so it's obviously recommended, particularly in certain locations in the world.
Okay. Maybe I think this is for you, Greg. Again, how does increasing cell phone coverage and other alternative solutions impact this Garmin Inreach? It is basically a satellite communication program. So how does increasing cell phone coverage impact Garmin Inreach? So you don't need the Inreach anymore if your cell coverage is getting better, or
sure.
I think this is a question.
Really interesting question. So, you know, in sort of developed parts of the world, then obviously the infrastructure is improving all the time. I mean, for me, the key thing, you know, even in the most developed locations, there are certain situations where that infrastructure becomes unstable or goes down. So and means of communication or typical means of communication are wiped out. So having Inreach and particularly highly optimized network like using Iridium, then it really still offers a lot of value. You know, for me also it's really important to that you have those sort of backup measures, particularly in locations in the world where, you know, there may not be cell phone coverage, so obviously you need means of communication, but also if you know you're going somewhere where it's a bit sort of volatile, the infrastructure is unreliable, you know, you need to have something that you can trust as well. There are alternatives coming out there, you know, we sort you know, Apple sort of, you know, recently announced an SOS function using satellite communication on their device. Great for iPhone users if you're in North America, US and Canada. At the moment, that is as far as it goes. I believe they've got plans to roll it out a bit further. But if you're outside of the US and Canada, it's not going to work. Also, you know, things like orientation of the device, it needs to be aiming quite specifically at the satellite line of sight. So it's quite a specific position the phone needs to be in as well. So you know, obviously think about Inreach and using Iridium, we've got 100% global coverage. We've got 66 satellites orbiting the Earth. They're only 485 miles away. You know, that you're going to get good signal, faster connections as well. So also but it's good that, you know, the awareness of this technology is becoming more and more, and I think for professional users they want something not only reliable in terms of connections but also in terms of usage. If you're using it out in the mountains and that, you know, you want a device that's not only waterproof but rugged as well.
Okay. Thanks, Greg. We have time for one more question, and that's for Yotam, and I think this is an interesting one. Well, you mentioned 1,000 rescue missions in a year, and you've been there for 5 years now.
Yeah.
So 5,000 rescue missions roughly. So, but what would be from you personally or for Magnus the most meaningful, or I don't know, rescue mission lately? What was it? Did you present them, or is there any specific one that you can remember?
So I think if I'm going to say from my personal experience, I think I'm going to say the rescue in Nepal. That was, again, 200 people in one village. And it took 4 days. It was a very big mission. And all while I was in one village, but our control center actually made it during that whole month, rescued over 300 people in the whole country. So I think that was lately that was a
and you got back yourself. That's good as well.
Yeah.
We are out of time. I mean, we would be able to discuss another hour about these missions, Greg and Yotam, everyone. But this was a second edition, so we started with humanitarian aid. We now have been discussing or initiating discussion on professional search and rescue. Thanks, Yotam, for the insights here. We will come back in the spring on the topic of lone workers. It's a totally different context again, but today again I think it's exciting to see how basically a sort of simple hardware, satellite communication and platforms and third-party integration can create something like this cooperation and end up in cases like in Nepal or Tajikistan. So this is, I think, encouraging to see that it works in real life and in very important context as well. I think that's all from our side this time. I thank you for taking part to this one again. If you have any questions, please contact us, Greg or Yotam directly. Otherwise, I wish you a nice evening or a good day, depending where you are. But thank you, Greg. Thank you, Yotam. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
Thank you, Juha. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.